Okay, so we're going to start off with these colors here for the horse ball. That's hilarious. Horse eyeball. Okay, so we got titanium white. We got primary yellow. We got cadmium orange, cadmium red, raw sienna, or burnt sienna, sorry. We got raw umber with some phthalo blue and some carbon black. Now the phthalo blue and raw umber, this is how you get your warm black. All right, this is so that you can, you don't really want to use pure black a lot because it looks like if you put a dot of black on something, it almost looks like it's got a hole there, right? But this, being a warm black, it's much more natural. So yeah, and then the black will be very, very, very extreme darks only. So there you go. So I'm going to mix all these all together by spraying a little water in them, and then we'll get started on the painting. All right, let's get started on painting this. I'm going to just get the basics down before we really talk about too much. I mean, I'm going to put my brown layer and just kind of fill this in just a little bit. The focus is going to be the eye though, because we want to focus on, like, you know, that reflection thing. That's why I made the eye extra big. But so let's just get the basics in there and go from there. So I like to use the burnt sienna color. Well, unless the horse has a blue eye, of course. Now, I don't know how other artists do it, but I like to kind of cover the whole thing in my base color like this and then paint on top in layers. I don't know if some artists do the color separate, like, you know, the teal and the yellow for the highlights. I like to put them on top as opposed to painting them separately, if that makes any sense. All right. Now that's going to take about 5 minutes to dry or so. So in the meantime, I'm just going to play a little music and be silent as I just start to fill in a bit of this. Because remember, the focus is the eye. So if you're going to paint along and do something like this, yeah, just start painting along to some music, and we'll be back shortly. All right, so now we got this kind of all filled in. I can do details of that later, but that's not the focus. The focus is the eyeball. So I'm going to start off. Remember when I said about mixing the phthalo blue and the raw umber? So we're going to use that as opposed to black. We're going to make the pupil. Now remember, horses have horizontal oval pupils. It's really weird, but that's what they have. So that's what I'm going to do. So just approximately in the middle. Now part of this is going to get covered up with the, you know, the shading and the highlights, but I just want to kind of know where it's going to be, right? Now we're going to use that same color, and we're going to start shading around with just kind of random oopsie, upsie, insy, outsies, you know, like that, those kind of lines, just random. Now here we can go solid, but again, here we just kind of want it to go in and out kind of randomly. Now, remember this is one of the things. So on a flat surface, yes, it's round, but it's actually a sphere, right? So imagine it coming out. So if I'm painting here where I can see more of like the side of the bulbous, the orb, the eyeball orb, that means there's going to be less over here. So that's one of those little tiny common mistakes people make. I mean, I used to make it. Everybody does that first. So I'll have more of the lines visible here, less over here. All right, and these are the little things that are going to make your eyeballs look a little more round as opposed to just like a flat color, right? It's like when you do shading, you want to do the shading kind of round as if you're on a round surface. All right, so first layer of shading, I'm going to use teal, and I'm not going to cut it down with anything. It's just going to be pure. And remember what we said about the eye being, there we go, an oval. Or not an oval, I apologize, a sphere. So we want these shapes of reflection to be like that. Like I said, we don't want like straight lines across kind of thing, because that's not what we're... And there's going to be something else we do a little later, which will help add to that, to the illusion of sphere. Why do I have a problem saying sphere? Okay. I'm going to take some of this raw sienna right there and kind of blend these two together just a little, right? Just a line at the edge, and just because they're not hard, sharp lines. There will be a couple little relatively sharp lines, but not yet. There we go. Just kind of, there we go. That's exactly what we're looking for. So you got a bit of color of the teal and the raw cyan kind of mixing together there for a much smoother look. And look at it, you can already see how it's starting to come together. Now I'm going to highlight this a little orangey pink. So I'm going to use a little cadmium red. Well, I've compromised the brush a bit because I had some orange on it, but that's okay because we're going to do that. And then we're going to take a little bit of white, not too much, but you want to do this while it's still wet. And kind of make that weird gooey look. And then dry off your brush. Most people, if you're intelligent, you're going to use a paper towel. I'm always using my sleeves. And then I'm just going to dab this a bit, kind of like on one part of it's like lifting some of the extra paint, but I'm also lightly spreading it out. It's almost like it's feathering it. So it's a very, see how easy that is? All right. So for all my super highlights, I always want to start with the teal, right? There's a little highlight here. Now we're going to put white on top, but we want teal up first because most things aren't as white as you think they are when it comes to art. There we go. We're going to have a real thin line right around the edge here. Now, a lot of people will use a very thin brush. I use a medium, and I just kind of try to have control with the tip. Mostly because I don't want to switch brushes, but you know, you probably should. But you know what? I'm not really an art teacher. I'm just I'm one of those guys that shows you how I do it. There we go. Nice and subtle. Well, kind of. Let's give this another layer here. And I like wet on wet shading for the most part because it gives little, I guess you would say, like, you can see little marks and streaks, and as you cover up more and more and more, I like the way it kind of gives it a bit of a painterly look. Do you know what I mean? All right, so I'm going to go lightly right where it starts to connect with the raw sienna because I don't want it to be too bold of a line. And let's see here. Let's take a little bit of more of that red. I'm going to take some of that teal. We're not going to quite make purple, but we're going to make a purple-y color. Just on the inside here of the eye. There we go. And then just kind of spread it out just a little randomly. Remember to follow this curve though, right? And then do what you did over here. Get your brush a little dry and then just kind of feather it a little bit. And you want the line here to be a little harder than on the outside. Go. Maybe just a little over here because it's, so remember what I said about it's an orb, right? This isn't flat, so it's an orb. It's going to be brighter over here and darker over here, so we'll use some of that purple again. I'll just kind of color over here, and it's very subtle, but it's just enough to show that curve that's happening. All right. And just for my own brain, using the raw umber and phthalo blue one as opposed to the black, I'm just gonna tighten this up a little. Just maybe add a little. This is actually aside from the eye, but it's there in front of me, so I'm like, do it now, Dave. All right, so we're gonna nice, tighten that up. All right, nice. All right, now let's go over this part just again, because see how light that is? So we're gonna give it another. Now I water down my paints a lot, so it's not straight out of the tube, because I like the colors to be a little thinner and layering. Layering is fun. I like my painting like my nachos. I like it layered. Or like my butter at the movie theater on the popcorn. Layered. All right. So we're going to use that raw umber blue again, just here. We're going to just fill in just a little, not too much. You can go right on the outside here to the inside, sorry. Just remember to keep it thin because it's thinner over that side, and thicken just a little as you get over here. And again, the reason you're doing that is it's gonna, when this is all said and done, it helps add to the illusion of a, well, I was gonna say bulge, but I guess that's the right word. Anyway, it's just random little streak, very subtle, right? Because you know that inside of your eye, like it's really crazy patterns. So now if this was a bigger eyeball, we could try to focus on those crazy patterns quite detailed, but you know what, this is small. And don't make your line solid here. See how I'm kind of feathering the edges a bit because I want it to be a little more flowy and organic, just like in real life. There we go. Coming along nicely, actually. I think I'm gonna like this picture. I'm gonna call it Horse Eye. Okay, gotta rinse my brush because we're gonna go into using some white now. But I don't want just pure white. So what I'm gonna do is, see the white? I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow to it, not much. There we go, that's perfect. So it's just like a creamy off-white. Because I only want to use just a tiny bit of white for the super highlights near the end, right? All right, now, I treat this like a pencil crayon almost, like I kind of shade a bit like this. So you can't press hard. There we go. I'm gonna follow this curve, just a little subtle line, and we're gonna just follow that up, kind of feather away. Just go over a couple times. We're building layers. This is so fun. There we go. All right. Now this is where it's going to start to get interesting, I think. Now a horse's eye will often reflect what's, like if you're taking a picture up this close, what's in it. And the horse's eyes are very, very reflective. And, you know, they're very big, so they're going to capture a lot if you really look. And so what we're going to do, it looks like this thing here is kind of out on a farm area. There we go, with some like little kind of silo buildings. So we're going to very subtly do these grain silo things. Right up to the edge, because like this horse's eye is basically, and for this part, like where the bottom would be, we're going to curve, right? Because this is a, remember, this is a not a flat surface, it's a round surface. All right, so we're going to go right to the edge, go over this nice and light, Again, almost like a pencil crayon. Now we're going to do what appears to be a bit of a fence. There's a blob there, which might be a vehicle, but we'll just try to draw what we see. And then there's some subtle little lines, and they kind of curve. I'm assuming these are a fence. It kind of looks like it. Now you don't have to make it look completely realistic, because these are subtle looking things just bouncing off the horse's eye, right? And it looks like there's little lines, almost like, what's it called? Like lines in a road. So I see 3 here, so I'm just gonna make 1. Remember, again, it's curved, so you give it that weird little curve that's gonna help make your eyeball look round, or I mean sphere-like instead of round. All right, and then in the back there's some trees and stuff, but we're going to do that on top. So this is dry, so give another little layer. The reason why we can use this teal, 2 reasons. Not everything is pure white, but also it's a sky in the background that I see in this horse's eye. So this really adds to the look, the reflection, if you can get this. All right. God, these things really are kind of like mirrors, aren't they? There's just a little light shade here. This could be a reflection of maybe somebody's arm. Maybe that's what they're doing. It's very, very light and subtle, but it's there. That's what I'm thinking it might be, isn't it? Somebody's arm. There we go. Okay, get some of this filled in again. So I'm using off-white for here, so that when I put the white, it's real over here, it's really gonna pop. Besides, silos aren't white anyways, they're that kind of, you know, gray, silver color or whatever, so. We can add like a little white highlight to that if we want. We're gonna put some of that dark brown here, because again, either there's some people or fences or cars, and it's just kind of like hard to tell. So I'm just trying to draw the shapes of what I see-ish. Okay, now let's get some trees in there. We're gonna start with some Rossian. I'm dipping it in my homemade black. And we're just gonna have tree lines kind of go up a little, but remember to follow this line, right? So it's almost like if there's a dot in the middle and you're going out like degrees, right? Because of the curve. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now I'm just gonna kind of feather them. You know, I'm not trying to make them look like real trees, just subtle. But I put those lines there, that's my guide. And it keeps me from kind of going off track. There we go. There we go. Still a little curious as to what this all is there down there. But yeah, I'm assuming some type of farm. Oh, it could be at a racing track, and maybe there's like division lines and stuff. That might be, and that would kind of make sense. Now we're gonna a little bit of shadow here because silos are round, and we want to give a little bit of depth to this. Even though there's not a lot of detail, we still want the depth. All right, now let's add the super white bright here. That's my brush, wipe it on my shirt. You guys should use napkins. And let's get this white in there. Now it's going to take a couple times, but it'll work. All right, also, seems to be a little white streaks in the sky, which means clouds, right? We're just going to do some white little, we don't have to highlight those, just little streaks. There we go. Now this dries, we're really going to add on some, what's it called? Some of the thick acrylic. Now I'm going to make these a little orangey because trees are rarely black, so we're just going to give a little color to it. Just, there we go, mute it. It gives it a little bit of a sense of depth of field. There we go. See what I mean there? A little color, because clearly there's a field here. Okay, this is really coming along. We're going to darken up in here in a little bit, but we want to get all these colors before we put the super darks in there. All right, so this is like an orangey yellow. Look at that, it's real nice. It's good for what we're about to do here, which is just some, now, this is going to be based on whatever you would use as a reference, just kind of like random little lines, which are part of the, is that the iris, that part of the, no, that's the pupil. Is this the iris? I think that's the iris. I should know what this is if I'm going to make learn how to draw an eye. I should know what the eyes are called. All right, just, there's a little orange streak over here. Make this a little orangier. There we go. And highlight these parts with darker orange. And over to the right here, there's just another kind of layer. The horses have so many layers of eye, like working parts around their eyes. It's really kind of crazy. And reflections, like they really are look like a round mirror. It's crazy. Like this here is part of the reflection. That's because, see the color, the orangey color over here where it's darker over here? It's because the light source in the sun is clearly over here. Oh, I think I just figured this part out. I think this orange part, because it's got a little bit of a dark streak to it too, and this little point here. So I wonder if this is actually another horse in the background, which would be really, really cool. I mean, you would never really tell like this, but I mean, oh, it's pretty cool. All right. Yeah, we're almost done. It's crazy cool, eh? Make it nice and sharp. And what's really going to make this really nice is when we put the eyelashes on and then the shadows of the eyelashes, right? That's going to be cool. Okay. All right, let's darken up this, get this highlighted, and then work on the eyelashes. See, this is going to bug me until I do it. There we go. Just tiny, tiny, tiny. There we go. God, sometimes the tiniest things bug me. Big things don't usually bug me, but man, those tiny things. All right, let's darken up in here a bit. And it's okay if I go over these little white streaks, I can go back over that, no problem. There we go. Why am I using my whisper voice? I don't know. There we go. That just might do it just great. Now, I have black as well, which I'll use for the super highlights, but that won't be till the very end. All right, let's get this white in here. Where's my white tube? So what I do at this point, like I know where the white's going. Now I like to use some white where it's not at all watered down. And that's what's really going to give a nice opacity. See how bright that is? Nice, thick, and bold. It's a little above there. And just kind of, almost like a pencil crayon, just fade it out. Let's highlight Some of this just a little, not too much though. We don't want this to like jump out super crazy. I still want it to be a little subtle. She's got some, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is somebody holding something, and that could be an arm. All right. I'm just gonna put some orange with it because clearly the light coming from the right is clearly a sunset, so I want orange in there. That'll be nice. Okay. All right, that eye is almost a hundo there. So let's get on to the black quick, or momentarily. Now I am going to go for my other brush now, which is, where is it? This one. It's not extremely small. It's a flat, rounded brush, but I like it because I can get tiny little spots. Because when I use those teeny tiny pointy brushes, I wreck them a lot. So I like this because look how thin of a line I can make here. Look at that. I'm just going to follow here. So very few spots are going to be super black, right? Come to the inside. See how much control you can have with one of these flat, oops, as I screw up. Now, here we go. But that's another reason why you should, in my opinion, water down your acrylics. Make a little mistake, very easy to fix. All right. So this side is going to be darker than over here because, again, remember, we're trying to make it look like an orb, like a sphere, not just a round eyeball or a flat eyeball. We want it to feel like it's got a little bit of depth. So it definitely has to be darker on this side. Even up in the sky, just very subtle. I should be using purple, but at this level, I don't think it matters that much as long as it's very subtle. And if it's a little too dark for your liking, just go back to your teal, like I just did there, and blend it in with that dark color. So, see, now it's just very subtly darker, and I like it a lot. All right, now we have to have a bit of a edge of the darkness because the horse's eyelid here, like it's thick. You know what I'm saying? So there'll be a little darkness coming around, like it doesn't go straight up to the edge, in which case it would be flat, right? And we know it's not. There we go. Look at all these. That's subtle lines for the other parts, which I will finish later. But look at me. I'm doing it anyways, and I should really stop. Okay. I hope this is actually the, you can see this fine. I got my light turned just a little too much, so up here is a little too shiny, but I know it's just the light, not the paint. All right, so we're gonna, nice thin line in between here. There we go. And this is a part of the eye that's really bulgy, so it's gonna have a good shadow. So having a big, dark, lumpy spot here, just like so, is exactly what you want. There we go. Now I'm happy. Also, this brush is good for like kind of spreading out, almost like a fan brush a little bit, like you just subtly spread it out so it's not like this massive bold line that just stops. There we go. Whew, okay, why don't we add a little tiny bit of black in here? Not much, just, there we go. See, just like that. Just, looks like you're just tapping it. Okay, we're almost at the super highlighting. This is going to be the crazy part. Eyelashes. Now I'm using this fine brush But you could use something like this if you're more comfortable with that. Just a nice thin brush. I've got a couple different styles. I got this really tiny one. Actually, you know what? I'm going to use that because these are very thin. All right, so the eyelashes go this way. They go like this, right? But because this is round, the shadow, if they're over here, they got to curve more. And then they slowly start to straighten a bit. Do you see what I mean? So these are the subtle things about making it look more curved. Here we go. Just take your time, because I know I'm going to. Whoops, nice and thick. That's okay. You can have 2 or 3 of them in there, bro. Another reason, though, to water down your acrylics. Now the good thing is if you get a little too thick, see how it looks a little too thick over there? That's fine. I'm not perfect. But what I might do is I might use a little teal to space out. Just put a little blue space in there maybe. If I think I need it. I might not. But that's one great thing about acrylic is that it's very easy to cover up in most cases. Now see how mine are curving much more on this side, and when I get over here they start to straighten out. That's because you're getting towards the center, right? Or a little more towards it. Oopsie. That was a little too wet. All right, almost there. So while this dries, I'll work on the actual eyelashes. Remember, these aren't the eyelashes, these are just shadows of the eyelashes. Oh, it's so weird using a teeny tiny brush like this. Because a lot of my paintings I don't require such a small brush, so it's neat to be patient, a little bit of challenging myself. When did I stop learning to speak English? A little bit of a challenge to myself. There we go, that's better. Jeez. Also, I turn on the camera and I can't speak properly. Okay. I think maybe 1 or 2 more over here, just cause. There we go. All right, let's get those eyelashes. Now, this is very black, right? So, oh my gosh, how do we make the eyelashes? Well, we're going to mix like kind of a darker black. So this is now blackety black. So I'm going to take the warm black that I made with the raw umber and the blue. I'm going to add a little bit of raw sienna to it. And to lighten it up, instead of white, I use a little bit of teal. So like it's kind of, see that nice kind of rich gray? We'll add a little more sienna, so it's like more of a brown gray. There we go. All right. Put a drop of water in there to make it a little smoother. And I'm just going to use the edge of the brush. Oh, clearly not enough of it. Oh, did I make it too watery? I did too. Okay, well, you know what? Rinse and repeat. Oops, not the teal. There we go. Try again. There we go. remember, the eyelashes come in this direction and then they start to go in this direction as they go around, right? So don't make just straight lines. It's not how they work. Right, and this is, we won't call it tricky, but I'm going to add just little subtle highlights. There we go, so they really stand out, but not too many. Okay. That should be just one more. There we go. Now over here the eyelashes come out a bit, but it's brighter over here, so they're going to be black, right? So they're going to stand out a little more. So then switch to black, and you don't need many, just like maybe 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. I'm going to go with like 10. There we go. And just follow the line you got over here, like that you're doing with these eyelashes. And then it just kind of naturally comes out. There we go. Actually, I'm going to make this a little longer because I want mine to be... There we go. Ah, yes. Nice big eyelashes. See, the horses down at the... out here on the farm, because they're wild horses that we have here, got some pretty bold eyelashes and stuff. It's pretty neat. Okay. There we go. There's that part. Now let's add the super white highlight. Now, actually, let's just right along the top. There we go. Just darken that up just under the other eyelashes, just a tiny bit. We're not going to have to add any teal. This works quite well. All right. And in doing so, I can add a few more highlights here to just give it a bit more of a oomph factor. You know what I'm saying, bro? All right. There we go. And now we're going to put a little black streak there, because that's where the eyelashes are coming out of, and it gives a bit of a separation. Just, there we go. And then just kind of go right from the top, just pull down just a little, not a lot. Not really even shading, you're just kind of pulling in. And maybe take your finger, go. You can use a brush, but I often use my finger. And here we are. We've got a horse eyelash. All right. All right, I'm gonna get that tiny blue streak back in there that I hit earlier. I want it there. Just come on, little blue streak. There you go. Nice. Now we're going to white highlight that. Where's that teeny tiny brush I had? This one here is super teeny tiny. All right, we're going to put a little here. But not much, because over here, remember, it's further away from the light source, so it's not going to be very white. And you don't want to overdo that at all, really. You almost want just a thin layer, almost to just to highlight the color outside of it. Now I'm going to take my finger, just go. There we go. I like that a lot. Okay, now, before I just do that last little bit, this is just moving on to the eyeball, like doing more details. This is outside. Remember, the focus of this video is just the eyeball. But out here by the lids, you know how you have these subtle colors. You want to start, remember, not pure white, but just take your brush, be very patient. Put these little teeny dots, basically like, almost like pores, right? And it's almost frustrating in a weird way, but it's really not. It's kind of like once you get into the habit and you go, this is more zen-like than frustrating, right? And you highlight where the sun's coming. Just tiny little, there you go. But anyways, let's get that part right there really, really white. And then we are done, boys and girls. Very excited. Nice and thick, because I want this part to be like, yeah, look at me, I'm bright. There's a little, is that my finger? Oh, look at that. Okay, you know what? Actually, I'm going to leave that. Actually, that looks really good. Yeah, let's kind of go. Oof. Oof. Look at that. Actually, I'm going to go over that a little bit, actually, but I don't want to totally keep it exactly like that, but it's okay. Part of that mistake can be, there we go. Just tap with my little finger. My little teeny tiny hands. And then there's a little white streak here. And that is basically it. Let me just cover this a bit, actually. I don't like it as much. I was like, ooh, I made a mistake, but it looks like it works. Not really. There we go, that's better. Cover that up a little. All right, and there we have it, folks. Just layers and layers, that's all it takes. And I might even, here, let's highlight this with a tiny bit of yellow, that light creamy yellow. Just maybe 2 or 3, just, there we go. I'm trying to be very gentle because I don't want to I have to fix it. 2, say 3, right there, boom. And that is it. There's your horse eye. And I'll post a picture of it as well after, like nice and straight on with better lighting. So thanks for watching. I hope you got something out of this. And if you have questions, please ask them, because we can learn about stuff together. Oops, I shook the camera. All right, talk soon.